Good evening. I'm E.G. Smith, and welcome to Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream. And I'm not here to overcook your grits on this day, but I'm so happy that you're here. And I want you to just understand what we're looking to do. Quite simply, we're going to look to create building blocks for generational wealth. We want to find a way to do that. And the way we generationally do that is through D.N.A. That's deoxyribonucleic acid. Now, I first heard about D.N.A. when I was in the 7th grade in a science class, and it struck me. I said, D.N.A., deoxyribonucleic acid. Of course, I didn't know what that meant back then because they weren't calling it D.N.A. D.N.A. didn't happen until about 15 years later. But it's good for your quality of life. D.N.A. and RNA are two words that I want you to remember, but we're going on up now. Project management. I am a PMP. The term works breakdown structure is the what, the why, and the how for project management. That's the Bible. That's the starting point. What, why, and how. And it codifies the essence of that. So, Smith, where are you going? I'm going here, where we are now. Now, this is not Mission Creek, but I'm going someplace, so follow me now. These are dark times that we're living in now. And these dark times have presently opened our eyes, literally. Microaggressions. Now, this is where I go into theme and variation. Microaggressions are things that happen to me. And I'm going to give you one example of a microaggression. I'm an Air Force veteran. After being in for 11 years, I'd come back to the United States from Turkey, and I was killing it. I was an air traffic controller and an air traffic control coordinator. I'm multilingual. I speak fluent Spanish and fluent Turkish, and so I was a pistol, always ensuring that I excelled because my dad said, you do your best, not try to be the best, and everything else will fall into place. Well, I was doing that, and I was seeking to become an officer. In order to be an officer, you have to get approved by your squadron commander. So I set up an appointment to meet with my squadron commander, and I was stationed at Patrick Air Force Base on the Space Coast in Florida. My squadron commander was a full bird colonel. Met with him, expressed to him what I wanted to do. He'd already had my paperwork. He said, Smith, I can't approve this. I didn't have to ask why, because when you're patient, you wait. He said, I can't approve this because everything I've seen and everything I've heard about black people, you don't exemplify that. You completely have obliterated what I've seen as far as black people. He said, I can't, in good faith, approve this because for so many years, myself and some of my contemporaries have put you all in a certain kind of way, and you don't do, and you don't act, and you don't speak the way we see you as speaking. So I can't approve this because then that would mean that we're wrong and you're right. Now, when you leave out here, you can tell anyone anything that you just said, but they're not going to believe it because they're going to think you are a disgruntled senior NCO. And so what I did with that is nothing. I understood the implications of what he said, and I moved on. Coming up to you now, I've just told you about microaggressions. That was my example. Now, macroaggressions, that includes all of you. What are the macroaggressions? DEI. Yes, DEI are macroaggressions, which means this. It affects all of us in this country, but there is no such thing as DEI. DEI does not exist. Does not exist. I hope you hear me now. You see what's happening in this country? Has nothing to do with DEI. You see what's happening with ICE? Has nothing to do with DEI. It has everything to do with one seminal fact. For the past 10 or 12 years, America has known that the majority white race will be in the minority in 10 to 12 years. Well, those 10 to 12 years are coming to fruition now. which is why you've seen the creation of ICE, which are Gestapo as tactics used by the government. And not the entire government, just a certain faction of the government. But the one thing about that is that you cannot turn the clock back. God has already ordained which way we're supposed to go and who is whom. So you can't turn the clock back and say, well, we're going to force folk out of the country so that we can maintain a certain level of austerity when it comes to race. You got to understand that I have friends that are white, black, Latino, Asian, and other. So God chose to make us what he made us and how he made us. I don't make friends based on color. It's on their spirit. And that's where we are. We need to excel in those areas, but I digress. Let me keep moving. These are spiritual times. When God speaks, you got to listen. Now, God speaks to everybody, but everybody does not listen. Leaders listen, and leaders act. I am a leader, and a leader denotes responsibility, not just to himself, but to other people. When God gives you something special, you use it. And there's an old gospel song, when I said God speaks, the song was Hush, Hush, somebody's calling my name. Now, when God calls you, he's not going to call your name. He's not going to say Victor, Vincent, Jazz, Ernest. He's not going to say that. He speaks through your spirit, and you know the feeling. And each of you, within the sound of my voice and looking at me right now, can say, I've had that feeling when I thought someone was calling my name. You look to the left or to the right, but that's not where you actually should have been looking. You should have been looking up from whence the Spirit is speaking to you. But when leaders are leaders, they don't complain. Leaders just go to work. Now, you've heard that. Now, let me give you some examples of why I'm telling you all this. And I've shared with you about D.N.A. We're coming back to that. I'm not going away from where I am. You've heard of the Sphinx, the Egyptian Sphinx. You've seen all kinds of statues throughout your lives, be you young or not so young. And the one thing about the Sphinx and other statues like that is the noses are lopped off. Have you not wondered why the nose was lopped off? So many of them. The reason the noses have been lopped off is because those noses are just like our noses. I'm talking about African and African American. Those noses were from black people, which means our creativity has been around for thousands of years. Our sobriety has been around for thousands of years. And no time have you ever heard any black people say, we are the superior race. We don't do that. We just try to live and live a good life. But it's been stated that the civil rights battle henceforth is going to be economic. Now, this is the thrust of what I'm sharing with you. The civil rights battle henceforth is economic. The problem is we've heard this on so many mediums that the civil rights battle is economic. The only thing that we've not heard is this is how we need to wage this battle of economics. How do you do that? You do that by arming your young people and your not so young people with the tools to fight. I'm not talking about knives and guns and bombs, with the greatest computer that we have ever seen, the human brain. That's what we fight with. Now, there's a word I'm going to share with you now, circumspect. That is what I hope that you should start becoming now, is circumspect. That's to be thoughtfully reflective and to think, how can I get from point A to point B? Well, I'm going to tell you, we want to do this. We want to provide financial building blocks, D.N.A., financial D.N.A., so that you'll know how to fight. And as a warrior, I'm going to share some of that with you. What we need to do is to think about PMPs and hedge funds. Start with those two today. Hedge funds. How many folk within the sound of my voice and the look of me right now can actually say that you know black people that are engaged in hedge funds? You see, that's what I'm talking about. These are the kind of things that we want to start trying to bring up to where all of us can understand the degree of necessity for financial and exponential growth as it relates to us creating generational wealth for ourselves and our families. And what does this do? It creates a great quality of life, peaceful quality of life. Because as you know, even in the midst of what's going on now in the country, the one segment of the population that's been conspicuously quiet are Black people. You know why? We're sitting now with our legs crossed and watching and saying, now you all in the country understand what we've been telling folk for generations. Now you've been wearing our shoes. So everything that we've been telling you is true. Now you see it. But we're not saying a thing about that, which is why I'm telling you now what we need to do is start developing forums where we can actually teach people that look like you and me how to get engaged in wealth building, hedge funds, these kinds of areas where you can generate wealth and you can generate generational wealth because you can bring not only your friends and your family members on, but your youth, your kids, your college students, high school kids, bring them into these forums. Successful warrior leaders, we must have access and the ability for long-term wealth building and funding initiatives, making money. That's what this whole piece is about, making money. Now, I'm going to say this. We can't make that kind of money from fish fries. We can't make this kind of money from selling chicken dinners. Nor can we develop these kind of funding streams by washing cars. What we need to do first, again, the work breakdown structure, the what, the why, and the how. The first thing we need to engage all of our folk in from the age of 18 to infinity, for as long as you live, is to register to vote. Yep, I said it. Register to vote. But I've heard this before. Yes, you have. But let me tell you something. I've heard it before too, all of my life. And I'm probably a little older than most of you. All of my life I've heard voting. And the one thing that has been prescient all of those years is the fact that there's been voter suppression. Even up until this day, you see them trying to cut your ability to vote. Now, just think for a minute. Again, that word I use from a Baptist hymnal, circumspect. Just think for a minute, especially you young folk. Why are they still trying to keep us from voting if votes don't matter? Think about that. Why are they trying to keep you from voting now in 2026, just like they did in 1964? Because your vote does matter. Your vote is your voice. You are warriors. That is your first level of battle, is ensuring that you are responsible for you. And as you are responsible for you, it's an homage to all of the people that fought for you to have this right to step up on your own and be an independent, powerful entity. But again, project management 101, the what, the why, and the how. The first step is to vote. Every place you go, you see voter suppression. Right here in the town that I'm speaking from now, they had early voting for several days. They cut that in half. We have mail-in ballots. You see, they're trying to suppress that, stunt that. Why are we still seeing this now, even after 1964 and 65, and dang, this is 2026, and we're still seeing the same thing? Why? Ask yourself that. Why? It is not because people that look like me have been stealing votes, have been voting in blocks by themselves over and over again. No, it is because your vote is your voice, and your voice is powerful. How do you learn to fight? Fight by using your brain. Be circumspect. Let us ensure that everything that we do has a purpose and a meaning. Again, I told you, macroaggressions. Each of you within sight of my voice can tell me of a microaggression that you probably experienced yourself. But because there's so many other folk that have experienced the same things, they become macroaggressions. So, what I'm simply trying to do is to give you access to things that you probably have not had access to. I didn't get access to these things until I became a full-fledged adult, in my 30s no less, and it just blew me away. I didn't know any black hedge funders. I barely knew any project managers until I became actively engaged after the military. I was actually doing project management work in the military, but I didn't know I was doing project management work. But I found out. And what I did when I got out was to take it to the next level on the aviation side and in the construction side. So what I'm simply trying to share with you is this is what we must do. And we must be circumspect in doing this. Nothing to cost you any money. The first step is to make a promise to yourself. You know what? What that man is saying to me is intriguing. It makes sense. Is it logical? Yes. Does it affect all of us? Yes. Independently? Yes. Collectively? Yes. So voting is the first piece of this. You must vote in order to really and truly give yourself a modicum of balance so that when you do, you know that benchmark. I can check off, say, I did my part for this phase. Now to the next piece. How do I start the process of getting engaged with folk that can help me to start the process of learning how to generate generational wealth, MONEY. That's what we live by is money. I'm not going to talk about people because everybody does that. I'm going to talk about you. Each and every one of you deserves the right to live a good quality of life. And it starts by imparting wisdom that I have learned and have been blessed to learn over the years with folk that are not so young and many others that are quite younger than I am. We have to teach. And that's what leaders do. Leaders are responsible, not being in charge. Now, don't get it too twisted. Being in charge is one thing. You know, you have folk in offices that are in charge. But leaders are responsible, and leaders have a level of compassion, and they understand that in order to effectively get this message out, you've got to share what you know and how you know it, and get creative and get other ideas from especially young folk. Because young folk have some unique ideas and some unique creativity, especially in these times that we're living in now. And you merge those two, long sage knowledge with creativity, and we have a force to be reckoned with. And so this is what the start of Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream is all premised on, is ensuring that what I share with you is something that is logical, makes sense, is doable, is tenable. And you know what? I want to continue watching and seeing what this cat brings on, because as we go forth, I'm not going to be harping on the same thing because I'm not harping on anything. I'm just sharing information with you, sharing stuff that makes sense. And that's the thing. Each episode of Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream will be something that you find thought-provoking and will in turn get you back to what I said about an old Baptist hymnal, have you being circumspect. That makes sense. Circumspect. That word, there's that word again. And it goes back to your D.N.A. Now, when folk ask me where I'm from for the last 20 years, it would always put a knot in my stomach because I don't know where I'm from. I know the city I was raised in, but that is not where I'm from. Again, your D.N.A. So many folk that look just like me don't know where we're from. So what can we do to mitigate that? We can use the gifts that we have now and to understand that, these thoughts that we have sometimes that just come out of nowhere, that's in your DNA. I'm talking about positive thoughts. Where'd that come from? It's in your DNA. And just know that if you think it and it's positive, you probably need to try to find a way to do it. Again, project management, the what, the why, and the how, the worst breakdown structure. So I want you to feel good as you go along with me on Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream, because we expect to do great things. We want this to really and truly be something special. And I'm going to have something for you each and every segment of Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream. And again, I told you before, I'm not going to overcook your grits, and I'm not going to be talking to you in such a way that you just get tired of hearing this man speak. Because what I will bring to you is something that's logical, and it's not going to always be serious. I'll have you laughing sometime, because that's how we live. We are people of spirit, and spirits do that. But this is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is how we will ensure that we can process what's before us. So to recap, D.N.A, deoxyribonucleic acid. This is what this is about. Your DNA and my DNA. And I want you to feel good about where you are. You are all warriors. Each and every one of you is a warrior in your own respect. And I want you to assume the responsibility of being a warrior for yourself. Each of you is a CEO of yourself. I want you to make good decisions about what you do and how you do it. Now, my parents used to always say this, and it stuck as kids. My mother would say, every tub has to sit on its own bottom. And my dad would clarify that by this. He'd say, every decision has consequences. In life, that's the truth. That is the gospel. Every decision has consequences. So we want you to make good decisions, want you to make logical decisions, but more importantly, we want to help to codify and provide a means and a forum and a way for you to actually think in a different way that will help you, because we're in the midst of an economic maelstrom here. We're in the midst of an economic maelstrom here. This is our civil rights battle. How do we ensure that we can create the kind of fiscal autonomy necessary to provide a good quality of life for ourselves, to create a good quality of life for institutions that we would like to create and promote? How do we do that? We can't do it with chicken dinners, we can't do it with fish fries, and we can't do it washing cars. How do we do that? Hedge funds? Write it down, hedge funds. Google the word hedge funds and see how it appears to be complicated, but it's like that by design. So we want to help to deconstruct those realms there, project management, to help you to deconstruct that through a works breakdown structure, the what, the why, and the how. This is what we're seeking to do. These are the times that we must step up and do things that we hadn't traditionally done. Hadn't heard anybody talking about that. Again, to reframe, DEI, there's no such thing. If DEI was, you would not see 85% of all of the NFL teams and college teams being black if it was DEI. If there were DEI, you would not see the NBA being what the NBA is. If there was DEI, you look at track and field, you would not see that. So DEI does not exist. It's all smoke and mirrors. To do the things you're seeing, the ICE is just Gestapoism at its finest. ICE is a reflection of what used to be called the KKK. Same playbook, old as dirt, has nothing to do with you. Racism has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with me. It's not our problem. What we must do is excel in being the best that we can be. Not to compete, but simply being the best that we can be. So I'm simply rephrasing what we were taught when I was kids. Don't compete. Simply go out to excel. Do your best. When you do your best, you leave everything on the table. And that's why you've seen so many folk that look like us excel, because we simply just go out to do our best. Being in mathematics, history, foreign languages, creativity, architecture, whatever, simply do your best, but it must be your best. And that's what Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream is all about. We're simply bringing you thought-provoking information that is meaningful and something that you can do something with, and something that you can be reflective and say, that makes sense to me. So this is what we're seeking to do. Okay? All right. So to recap, from where we started, black coffee, no sugar, no cream, is simply a medium for you to learn and to get information that you hadn't considered. And we will be bringing thought-provoking information to you every single time we come on. I'm E.G. Smith, and I'll be looking to get back with you. Voting, remember, the capstone for where we are first. The first thing I want you all to do is to vote. And in closing, adios to my Spanish watchers. Au revoir to our French watchers. Gule gule to our Turkish watchers. Assalamu alaikum to my Muslim watchers. Adego to my Nigerian watchers. And Donagove to my Cherokee American Indian watchers. This is E.G. Smith. This is Black Coffee, no sugar, no cream. May God completely keep you covered in his holy ark of protection. Take care till next time, and as Arnold Schwarzenegger said, I'll be back. Thank you so much. Take care.